The reason Tony is so great and was the boogeyman is because he would never quit no matter what. Like, he was just going to come forward. Didn't matter if both his teeth were broken, his elbows were shattered. Any other fighter was going to be trying to drag themselves out of the octagon. You knew Tony was going to be walking forward, and if he had to, he'd bite your face off. If he has a way to hurt you, he's going to use it, and he is oblivious to how damaged he is. Like, that is why he was the boogeyman, dude. It's not just because of his skills. He had great skills, but he also mentally was the most unbreakable guy in the world. So why is anybody surprised that the end of his career looks like this, where he's lost 7 in a row and he refuses to retire? How is that? How could that surprise anyone? I've got the fight for Tony Ferguson. So the great thing about life is anytime that you end up in a situation, you have choices that you can make. Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? And, you know, in the combat sports game, you get a lot of people with some pretty extreme decisions to make in some pretty extreme situations. As an example, Colby Covington, as you guys may remember, was on the card last week. He made some comments about Leon Edwards' murdered father and where he resides in the afterlife, which did not go over very well with either Leon, his respectful opponent, or the entire MMA community. Some people more outraged than others. I don't think we need to re-go over that entire thing. We'll probably discuss it a little bit. But afterwards, Colby was getting annihilated in the media for the comments that he made. Annihilated by every single person. Everybody. The most full-throated defense that he got was from John Anik and me. And the way that we defended him was, are you serious? He's dressed like Benjamin Franklin. I said Benjamin Franklin. Dominic Cruz also. He's dressed like Christopher Columbus. And John Anik said he's dressed completely ridiculous. You know, why has everybody been out of shape? He said he was going to kill my family or leave my family fatherless, and no one cared. Why is everybody so bent out of shape about this? And that's the best that he got. Like, that's the heaviest defense that he got. Everyone else was like, this guy is a complete and total piece of human trash. Who would say a thing like that? F Colby Covington. He deserves to get beat down, and he should be thrown out of the UFC. And you should be thrown out of whatever room you're in if you have not subscribed to this channel and liked this video. Everyone hated him. So, Colby was faced with a choice. You know, I guess in that situation, you have a couple choices. A, you could apologize. You know, you could just go, listen, I went too far. Or at the face-off, you could be like, hey, man, I was just in character. Everybody thought that he did that. Clearly, that was not what he was doing, as we found out today and earlier, but nonetheless. So he could have apologized directly or indirectly. He could have, B, ignored it, you know, just ignored the whole thing. And when someone asked about it, he said, you know, I don't know. It's just something I said. Or he could have gone with option C, where he compared Leon's dead father to Hitler. He compared Leon's dead father to Hitler. Now, if you think that Colby did that, not knowing that that was going to be a headline that ripped across the world, you are out of your mind. Now, I can say unequivocally what Colby is doing, what his intention is, and straight up, this is all strategy for sure. And I'm going to tell you why he's doing it. And then I want to talk about Tony Ferguson refusing to retire, which just seems interesting. And I'll tell you why. I've got the fight for Tony Ferguson. That's the thing I'm going to tell you. I have the fight for Tony Ferguson. And when I say I have the fight for him, I mean I saw someone tweet it. And when I saw it, I initially was like, really? And then I looked, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. So we're going to watch both those, talk about both of those two topics, and you can buckle in for that right now. I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Happy Hippo. I'm not going to say much about them. I'm just going to tell you guys that these Kratom products are the bomb, especially the shots, dude. Go to happyhippo.com and check out their shots. Bottom line, they are the bomb. You see this one over here? See that Kratom Energy shot on the far left? That is my jam right there. $9. And it's like a 5-hour energy that just domes you with great kratom as well. HappyHippo.com. Use the promo code Jesse on fire. You will be happy that you did. So here's Colby Covington. Just being an all-around super duper classy guy. All right. So here's him talking about Leon Edwards' father in the Patrick Bet-David interview.
You're not even, pulling back on this. You're doubling down on his father.
I'm doubling down. Why would I feel bad for anything I say about someone that is such a criminal and put so much pain in people's lives? I'm not going to feel bad for someone like that. Just like Hitler, he was a terrible person, man.
You're comparing his dad to Hitler.
I'm not comparing him to Hitler, but I'm saying it's that same level of bad guy.
Okay, I have 2 ways I'm going to cover this. All right. So first of all, let me just, you know what? I'm going to go serious first. Okay. Because I just need to put a disclaimer out there. If Leon was this broken up about his father's death when he was 13, his father was probably a pretty good father. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, just because I'm going to laugh really hard at what Colby said, like really hard about a lot of different things. And so I just want to make sure that everybody understands I'm not some kind of sociopath. I have kids, dude. Also, I understand life circumstances that people get dealt. Not a lot of people who are born in Jamaica, right, in the ghetto of Jamaica, have any opportunities where they're going to go do, they're not going to go do D1 wrestling in college, Colby. If we're having an actual conversation about this, I just want to make sure that we have one that's an honest one, okay? Colby, if you were born in the ghetto of Jamaica, you were not going to be in wrestling school when you were 6 years old. You were never going to go to college or do any of those things, but you are a go-getter. You're someone who chases the things that they want. Well, so hypothetically in that situation, what if the only avenue open to you for you to be ambitious about was to be a successful drug dealer, a successful international gang member and drug dealer? Where do you think you would have ended up? Colby Covington, exact same place. Okay. That's a difference of circumstance that you were born into. You hit the genetic lottery. That's what the difference is. So just so we're on an even playing field, that is a completely legitimate thing that I just said. Now I am going to laugh also, I still think it's super messed up for Leon. The guy, hopefully now Leon is just ignoring everything that Colby says, or maybe Colby's going to talk his way into a rematch because maybe that is what he's doing. This is the funniest clip I have ever, dude. It's so absurd. First of all, he completely knows what he's doing in terms of watch how he says the bad guy thing again, because it is so funny. Watch his face.
Hitler, he was a terrible person, man.
Not here.
I'm not comparing him to Hitler, but I'm saying it's that same level of bad guy.
It's the same level of bad guy. It's so ridiculous. It's I'm not saying he's like Hitler. It's just that same level of bad guy.
I'm not comparing him to Hitler, but I'm saying it's that same level of bad guy.
Colby has embraced full heel now, okay? I want to make this very clear. When Colby first set out to do this, Colby's persona recently has been interpreted very differently over the last couple years than it did the first couple years. Because in the last couple years, he went so hard Trump that he inherited a big, passionate fan base of people who are also big Trump supporters. You guys may have heard some stories about Trump walking into a stadium and the entire place almost coming down because the whole place cheered so hard. I was there in Miami. I cannot stress enough. It puts hair, the hair on my back of my neck stands up thinking about it. It was so amazing because you see the whole place, Kid Rock, boom, 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 and then Trump came out, the place let's go, and everybody's like, USA, USA. Every single person in that place, dude. Everyone. Okay? Everyone in that place. So I can't stress enough that being a Trump supporter at the UFC is going to get you fans, even if you didn't mean to do that. Even if you were just trying to troll. He's an actual supporter there, but is that really what he set out to do initially? Or do you think he put on the MAGA hat because he was trying to piss people off? Okay. Colby's intent was to be full heel. He inherited some fans. Now he has the opportunity to kind of play it both ways. Do I want to be like the good guy who just supports Trump? Or do I want to embrace absolute full throttle heel? You have your answer. The whole entire MMA community is yelling at him about what he said, and instead of scaling it back, he escalated and called Leon's dad Hitler. Okay? That is so funny. Like, that is so funny. It's so ridiculous. He knows nothing about Leon's dad at all. You know that. I know that. He knows nothing about Leon's dad. Nothing. And he compared him to Hitler. It's amazing, dude. It's so stupid. It's so funny. So I just want, I want to say the following about Colby. Like, the guy is an absolute on the job 24 hours when he needs to be stone professional. I don't care what anybody says. You're not going to convince me otherwise. Okay, what he's doing right now is a job. Like, this is his job. Like, this is his job. And people can say whatever you want about the direction that UFC has gone, or like, I don't like this WWE shit. I was on site, at like a work thing yesterday, and we're at like this fabricator's place. Like, obviously a lot of people who are into combat sports, military or whatever. And one of these huge guys, we just started rapping out. I was like, "Oh, you watch UFC?" He's like, "I used to." He's like, "I don't know. It's gone a little bit too WWE for me." And I was just laughing, just thinking to myself, I'm like, God, if that's your case, he would fucking hate my shit. If he knew of my YouTube, he'd be all, let's go with another company. This guy's part of the problem. But bottom line, modern MMA, since Chael and Conor, people have recognized that they will get much more opportunity if they are doing the types of things that are going to get them eyeballs at all costs. Colby recognized this, and he has prioritized his career over every other thing. He decided to play heel, and he is doubling, tripling down. He just lost last weekend. He lost last weekend, and he lost an embarrassing fight. And for all intents and purposes, it was an embarrassing loss. And does he go disappear? No. At the press conference after the fight, he immediately calls out Wonderboy, says that he's talking trash, says all this stuff in character. He's not hanging his head and crying. He starts blaming the decision on the judges, saying it's because he supported Trump. And, it's like, and then now he's on Patrick Bet-David's show, and he's saying the thing that he took so much flack. He's 10xing what he said. He's a professional, man. You have to give him respect for that, at least. You don't have to respect what he's doing or how he's doing it. You have to respect the effort that he is putting into his career, is my point. Okay? I'm going to say something very similar about Tony Ferguson shortly. Matter of fact, we'll just transition to that right now. So my final thought with Colby is respect the guy's hustle, respect his commitment to his career, because he is nothing like this in real life. Okay? I have been doing investigations recently, and everybody who really knows him, it is universal. This is not who this person is at all, which makes it even more impressive that he is so committed to what he's doing. All right. Now let's switch gears. Okay? We're going to talk about Tony Ferguson, because Tony Ferguson, if you guys have not heard, is not retiring. All right? He's not retiring. And listen, dude, most of the things that you're seeing online look like this. Daniel Cormier, I believe he should retire. Only Tony knows when it's time, but it seems as though he's the only one left that isn't sure. Everybody else feels pretty certain that time has come for Tony Ferguson, right? Now, the only other thing that I saw that was relevant or even notable on Twitter, aside from the fight that he should get, is this. Apparently he went live, and there were 5,000 people watching, and there's just nothing there. Oh, look at that. Schmo was on there giving him props. But Dr. MMA said last night Tony Ferguson was on live, and this is what we saw. He was at the beach at nighttime. I'm a bit worried. Should we be alarmed by this, considering Tony's mental health in the past? I'm not going to answer that, but listen, dude, the memes, it's, whatever. But let me tell you this, all right? Before I show you the fight, I want to say this. The reason Tony is so great and was the boogeyman is because he would never quit no matter what. He was just going to come forward. Didn't matter if both his teeth were broken, his elbows were shattered. He couldn't, any other fighter was going to be trying to drag themselves out of the octagon. You knew Tony was going to be walking forward, and if he had to, he'd bite your face off. If he has a way to hurt you, he's going to use it, and he is oblivious to how damaged he is. Like, that is why he was the boogeyman, dude. It's not just because of his skills. He had great skills, but he also mentally was the most unbreakable guy in the world. So why is anybody surprised that the end of his career looks like this, where he's lost 7 in a row and he refuses to retire? How is that? How could that surprise anyone? It's exactly how he fought his entire career. It's exactly why he was the boogeyman. Now, it gives me fantastic feelings and great joy to tell you that this is not a video where I'm going to suggest that he retires, because there really is a fight for him that makes perfect sense. And the UFC should tell him, we're going to give you one more, period. We're willing to give you one more so that you can retire the way that you deserve. At least retire from the UFC, right? If that's how they want to play it. I mean, if he refuses to accept what's happening, it is what it is, dude. I'm not going to tell UFC what they should do. This is a fighter that they've had a relationship with that spans a very long time. Personal relationships there. He's given his blood in that octagon. I'm in no position to tell anyone here what to do. Not Tony, not the UFC, nothing. What I would expect to happen is they should give him the opportunity to retire on his terms with a retirement fight like Robbie Lawler had, and then give him a great matchup for that. And I'll tell you who that is right now, because I bet a lot of you are like, dude, there's no fight that makes sense. Bam. Bam, son. Tell me that fight doesn't make sense. Tell me Clay Guida and Tony Ferguson that doesn't make sense. Anthony Romero, excellent call, dude. And excellent call. Now, if you've never seen Tony or Clay fight in person, it's amazing for multitude of reasons. But Tony, first of all, I am telling you right now, when you see that guy in person, I don't care what kind of shape you think he's in terms of his ability to beat top 5 UFC fighters. He is terrifying. And Clay is such a huge fan favorite. Like, I've seen him fight a couple times in person. He was like one of those guys, when you watch him on TV, I was always like, oh, here we go. Clay, Guida, he's going to try to wrestle him, whatever. But when you feel that guy's energy in the building, everyone roots for him. Everyone roots for him. At UFC Austin, you know that fight where he, God, who's that guy's name that's so good? That new Brazilian guy is nasty. And Clay Guida fought him all the way to the... Clay Guida escaped that guillotine. It was so tight. It was so intense. I don't understand how he got out of it. He came out to Pantera Walk. I've been listening to that song ever since. I don't even like that song, but I like it because Clay Guida came out to it and I was there. Like, that fight is amazing. They put it on a main card. It's Tony's retirement fight. It would be amazing. And he has a shot in that fight. He has a good shot in that fight. Clay Guida is going to keep coming forward, but like, Tony can submit Clay Guida. You know, Tony can submit Clay Guida. He puts himself in a lot of positions to get his neck taken, and you know, he doesn't have huge knockout power. It is a perfect fight for Tony to wrap up on. You know, I don't know. Like, again, I'm not in a position to tell him like, oh, you should only do one more. I'm not telling him that. I'm just saying that seems like what makes sense. He's lost 7 in a row. The UFC is not just going to keep putting him in there if he keeps losing. I mean, indefinitely. But I think they will give him one more. If they think about it and they do Clay Guida versus Tony, I think they'll do it. And I think, but I think they'll make it a requirement that it's his last fight. And I love that idea. So, yeah. The only other thing I was going to say about the Colby thing that I just realized I forgot is that the media is always comparing Trump to that guy. They're always being like, he's just like Hitler. And that like is the biggest pet peeve of like MAGA people. They're like, oh, so everything he says is just like it. So it's hilarious that Colby goes on there and then compares Leon's dad to it. It's like, it's just very clever. That was actually very clever. But anyway, I'm sure most people are going to want to kill him for it. So, you know, he's doing his job. He's doing his job. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. I love you guys. Bye-bye.